Good morning, YouTube. Yeah, it's my morning, which means it's 1:57 in the afternoon. Oh, I really wanted to get up earlier today, but yeah, it didn't work out that way. I don't know. I just didn't sleep well last night. I haven't been sleeping well at all lately. So my last blog ended up, which I actually already have uploaded, so I'm current on these for the first time in a while. I had like two things I was talking about, and I got cut off abruptly. And since I was at a ridiculously long amount of time, I decided to just call it a night and just leave it like that. And yeah, it ended. I was shooting, trying to zoom in, and of course it was dark, so you couldn't really see it well, and it was a ways away, but I was trying to zoom in at the two Phoenix police cars that were in Pierce Park, basically running homeless people out of it. And to be fair, I mean, the park does have posted hours. So if you're there between the posted hours, in the hours that are posted as the park being closed, the police certainly have all the right in the world to say, hey, you need to get out of the park. The park is closed. But it's really clear that they were there just to remove homeless people, and it's also really clear to me that those hours that the park is closed, that's the only context in which it's really enforced. Like if I was to go down there, in fact, I think I've done it with the vlog. I've had many times where when I've been walking, in fact, I definitely have vlogged myself doing this, where I leave, late at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I decide I want to walk down to Wander Inn. The shortest route for me to walk to the Wander Inn is walking through Pierce Park. It just kind of cuts a little bit of walking off, and take that to the corner of the park, over on Palm Lane, the southwest corner of the park at Palm Lane, and then walk down Palm Lane to 42nd Street. That's the shortest route walking for me going to the Wander Inn. And even if there was an officer, in fact, I think I've had times when I've done that, where there's been an officer sitting in that parking lot, and he hasn't said boo to me about, hey, this park is closed. I've seen people in the park playing soccer, well, in the fields, well after the posted closed hours. I've seen just people hanging out, but there were still cars in the parking lot, so they clearly were at some point getting in a car and leaving. So it definitely feels like they're using that rule to selectively pick on homeless people and get homeless people out of the park. And don't get me wrong, the last thing I want is homeless people camping in the park near my apartment. I don't think anybody wants that. But on the same token, I guess what I want is help for the homeless people. And I'm sure there's and every time you see a video where somebody says something like that, there's usually somebody on YouTube's like, oh, you want to help the homeless people? Why don't you let them crash on your couch? Yeah, I already functionally got somebody doing that. Thank you. The reality is there needs to be somewhere for them to go. And I don't have a solution to that. I don't know where that should be. I mean, it does seem that it does seem like we've hit a point with the homelessness crisis. I don't feel that the government needs to be housing all homeless people, in shelters, apartments, or otherwise, at the expense of taxpayers. I really don't think that's. I mean, think for those with physical disabilities and the severe elderly and people with mental disabilities, maybe that is kind of appropriate. They need to be somewhere, and some of these people, it's easy to look at a homeless person and say, oh, that asshole should get a job. But, I mean, look at some homeless people, and I'm talking like the people that are just not, they're not clean because they're homeless. No, they're not clean because they have a mental issue that's kind of preventing them from being cognizant of the fact they're not clean. I've been homeless. And when I was homeless, I went in and out of a lot of public places and nobody questioned it. I would spend sometimes large amount of times hanging out in places such as the Arizona State Capitol and the Maricopa County Superior Court and different malls, bars. And I'm sure that 90% of the people in there had absolutely no thought or inkling that I was homeless. And that's because being homeless does not prevent a person from carrying themselves well or being clean. I mean, can you definitely, can you go in a place like that and take a shower? Probably not. But it is extremely possible to go into a public restroom and wash your forearms, wash your hands, wash your face, wash your neck. Even take a paper towel and get it, stick it inside your shirt, make sure your pits are clean so you're not sweaty and stinky. It is very possible to do that when you're homeless. And it's possible to do that without looking out of place, because you know what? Everybody should be washing their hands and washing their face throughout the day as it's convenient. It's kind of sad that it took a virus pandemic for some people to realize that, hey, you should regularly wash your hands throughout the day. But here we are. So yeah, when you see somebody that's like, they're all weird, dirty, and they're like mumbling to yourself, that isn't because they're homeless. That's because they have mental health problems, and they need to be somewhere where that can be helped. I see some people in videos about homelessness where they're saying, well, open the asylums. Yeah, I don't know the whole history of that. But I do know that asylums in general and mental health hospitals in general are god-awful places. One of my daughters was locked in a mental hospital for about a week. The whole situation was terrible. I've been locked up in mental health facilities numerous times. Currently, the standard for a long time to be in a mental hospital or asylum, if you will, is that you must either be acutely or persistently disabled, a danger to self, or a danger to others. I feel like there's a fourth one, but it's never really used. But the persistently or acutely disabled, it has a tendency not to really get used, and that one's a real fine line. It's not really set. I mean, so that really dirty guy, is he persistently or acutely disabled? Maybe not. As easy as somebody can look at him and go, yeah, that guy can't take care of himself, so he's persistently acutely disabled. Somebody else can be like, well, he's physically able to, talk and walk, and so he's fine. Doesn't meet the standard. As for danger to self and danger to others, the homeless people are threatening. Everybody's threatening. Everybody has the capacity to hurt somebody. I mean, not that I'm going to do it, but case in point, I could at any time take this vehicle as I'm flying down the freeway at 70 miles per hour and plow. Right now, I could have just jerked the wheel right and possibly killed that guy in the Nissan. Not going to do that, but I could. Anybody could. Anybody could be a danger to themselves and other people. So, I mean, what do we do? Put everybody in asylums because they have the potential to be a danger to themselves and others? The bottom line is even the most mentally ill people that are homeless do have the right to freedom and all the rights afforded to any other American citizen. Now, I do believe that everybody should have a right to just simply exist without the burden of having to rent a home. I think that should be a choice, not a requirement. When it becomes a requirement, I do believe that's kind of a form of slavery. Should everybody be a slave to their landlords? It's a touchy subject. Well, be a productive member of society. I don't know. It seems to me you should have the freedom not to be. Is society going to crumble and fall apart if everybody decides they don't want to be productive? Yeah, most likely. But, if somebody wants to be a freeloading hippie beach bum, I think that should be their prerogative. Their comfort level in their life is going to, you're going to sow what you reap on that one. But that said, do I want homeless people squatting in Pierce Park? No, I don't. It just kind of frustrates me to see police using the hours of the park just to selectively run homeless people off, when those same police are not able to offer any kind of help or assistance to these homeless people. I don't see them showing up and giving those homeless people either a ride to county annex if they're that mentally troubled, or to cast shelter if what their issue is they just need shelter. I don't see that happening. They just run them off. So where do they go? I don't know, the next dark place that's out of the way where they're not going to get bothered and hopefully not going to get noticed. I would imagine the average person that gets run out of cast shelter probably ends up, walking down. I see them walking down my alley sometimes. I see them probably just walk down my alley and make sure the cops aren't following them. Get to the green belt and just find a dark spot in the green belt and camp out there till the sun comes out. I see those people in the green belt sometimes, and it is kind of weird, because I live in a fairly upper middle class neighborhood, fairly upscale neighborhood. But yeah, there's homeless people in it, more than there's ever been. So you get into worse parts of town, it's a whole other thing. And granted, like the Phoenix area hasn't got anywhere near the levels of homelessness that, say, Los Angeles has. But I think the main thing preventing that, people want to go, oh, it's government policy, red states, blue states. No, I don't think it's a red state, blue state thing that's keeping homelessness lower in Arizona than it is in Southern California. I think it's just simply climate. I think it got up to like 107 yesterday. Any homeless person with the means is getting the hell out of 107 and getting themselves to LA or San Diego, where it's a lot more comfortable. Anyway, I was not going to rant that long about homelessness. I just kind of wanted to finish my thought at the end of the last vlog, where I was, trying to get that out, and then trying to put my smartphone back on the little stand here in the windshield. Hit the magic button that stops it. I think I hit the one on the upper right hand corner that just closes the screen, shuts the screen off. And on that note, software developers, just because I shut the screen off, what makes you think I want to stop shooting video? Why can't I shoot video without the screen being on? Why is that not a feature? Maybe I want to shoot some really long video and I just don't want to waste battery on lighting up the screen, or I don't want the light of the screen in my car at night. Just thought, Apple software engineers. Anyway, moving right along. The other thought that I hadn't finished is I was talking about the song World Destruction before I got completely sidetracked by, ooh, look, they're ousting the homeless people in the park. So I couldn't, at the time, I could not for the life of me remember what the name of the artist was. And the artist is Time Zone, which is Africa Bambaataa, and I think it's Steve Laswell. And so I was looking it up because I was going to add it for karaoke. I thought I had a good karaoke version, which I didn't, and I'll get to that. But I thought I was going to add that song for karaoke. I absolutely loved that song when I was a teenager. And that was one of those songs that whenever I would get out to, like I loved alternative music before I realized I loved alternative music. Bands that would be considered like roots of alternative music were some of my favorite bands growing up. And records that I would find, 45, where I would buy a 45 and I would love that song, but it would end up not being much of a hit, and then I would end up buying the album. Like I'd hear it just the tiniest bit on the radio, or I might hear it on MTV, and I'm like, that's awesome. And then and those are the albums I would listen to, loved, But I used to regularly take trips to California with my family, even after they split up, because both my mom and my dad had parents in Northern California, which would often include trips through LA as well. And hey, let's stop at Disneyland. I was lucky enough to grow up with parents that were fluent enough to take me to Disneyland. I feel bad. I've never been able to take my kids to Disneyland. Allison's an adult. At some point, I'd still kind of like to take her to Disneyland. Anyway, we spent time in LA. Spent time in LA growing up, and spent a lot of time in the Bay Area growing up, just going to visit extended family. And two stations that I always listen to is, I'm forgetting. I want to say K-Rock, but that doesn't sound right. There was an alternative station in LA in the 80s. And I'm brain farting on what it was, but when I was always glued to my radio as a kid, and whenever we were in California, man, my favorite thing, above and beyond anything else we were doing, like I enjoyed this more than even going to the amusement parks, because it seemed like most of the time an amusement park was just sitting waiting in line, and that wasn't fun at all. Or I want to go this. No, you're staying with the family. All right, we're doing boring as shit. Thank you. For me, the most fun times when I was a kid in California was while they were driving to places, and I was listening to my radio on my headphones and hearing all these stations that played all this music that I didn't hear at home, and watching all the streets and the street signs, and just mesmerized by, wow, this is so different, and reading all the street signs and trying to imagine what the layout of the streets were. And if I had a map, looking at where we were on the map and just how big. At this point, Phoenix sprawl was kind of on a par with LA sprawl, but it was, it wasn't. And I was fascinated by sprawl. Most people think sprawl is evil, and I guess it kind of is, but I was fascinated by it. Still kind of am. So went to, so the station I listened to when I was in LA, the one I listened to the most was, and it's killing me, I can't remember what the call letters were, the name of it was, but it was the alternative station. And the station that I listened to the most, that I liked the most, when we would go down to San Diego for a trip to SeaWorld, or the San Diego Zoo. And I guess I did grow up with some like white privilege, at least at a young age, being able to do that. And I'm doing air quotes on the white privilege, because that was basically middle class privilege. Up until the point where my family wasn't middle class on my mom's side. Dad stayed solid middle class. Military will do that for you. When we get down to San Diego, the station I listened to the most was 91X. Again, alternative before alternative was such a mainstream thing. And then also, and this is the one I listened to the most, because being that I had family on both my mom's side and my dad's side up in Northern California, once I get into Northern California, I'd be there for a few days. And I would have a lot of quality alone time with my radio, because, parents would be visiting with aunts and uncles and old friends and whatnot. And oh yeah, Danny's keeping himself entertained with the radio. We good. And mostly I was listening to Live 105, which was the alternative station there. So yeah, really raised on alternative music. And the song Time Zone was one that got, Time Zone was the name of the artist. They said it was Africa Bambaataa and another guy whose name I'm forgetting again. I did look him up last night when I was getting ready to add that song for karaoke, and yeah, I don't know who he is. I saw a whole bunch of other projects that he's connected with, and didn't recognize any of them. But I definitely remember the song World Destruction. That was one that I would hear every time I would get out into California, and it was on the California Alternative Radio, and I loved it. I would occasionally hear it on KZZP during the mix shows that played on the weekends. And then, when I ended up moving into Denver in my late teens, as a super young adult, that was something I would hear on alternative radio out there. Phoenix never had alternative radio when I was a kid. So, and by alternative, alternative used to mean not mainstream. It really hasn't meant that for a long time. It seems like for a long time, alternative has meant pop rock for white people. But I digress. Anyway, yeah, so it's that particular song, World Destruction, has got John Lydon, also known as Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, on it. And it just somehow managed to be electro and funk and punk all at the same time. It's really its own thing. Great song. I hadn't thought of it in quite some time, even though I do own the vinyl single and have had that one for well over a decade. It's one that largely sits on my shelf, because how often do I actually sit down and bury myself in my vinyl, So, shit, right now my bedroom turntable's got stuff piled on it. It's not even accessible. So excited to add it to my karaoke, and I realized I don't have it in my digital music library at all. So I got the 7-inch. I managed to find an official stream of the 7-inch vinyl, one of the 7-inch vinyl edits. I looked that up on Discogs, and the 7-inch vinyl has 2 different versions of different lengths, and nothing to explain what the difference is between each version. It's not like power mix or dub mix or instrumental. Usually there'll be when there's multiple versions of a song and a single, there'll be a parentheses at the end where it'll say what the version is. No, one side says World Destruction and has a time, and it says World Destruction has a time, and it's a different time on each side. Can't explain that. And I believe that's how my single, my 12-inch single as well, is the times are longer. But anyway, I got one of the 7-inch edits, just because it seemed to be about the same time length as the karaoke version I was going to add. So when I add a karaoke version, I always try to find the MP3 or a music video that has the same audio as the song would have, so I can compare it to the karaoke version of the actual song and see, hey, is this on point? Is this a good representation of the song for somebody who wants to sing it for karaoke? Yeah, I'm that anal about my karaoke. So I got the MP3, horribly loudness war, brick wall. I've got a method for kind of cleaning that up, and one of these days I'm going to do a video about that, and I'm going to talk about that, but now's not the time, because I'm almost to where I'm going. Going back to the trough, by the way. To try to talk to the owner. I'm feeling very confident about it, but I'm going to try. I got that. That looked like it was going to be the version that was closest to it. And then I found 2 different versions of the video. None from an official source, but both random people that had uploaded it. I do have a functional video. It is really low resolution. There was one that was 640 by 480, and it actually looked really shitty and sounded awful. And then there was one that was like 320 by 240, and that one sounded all right. And I'm definitely going to lean towards one that sounds good over one that looks good. And resolution, it had a higher audio bit rate, but something that's 360 kbit that's sourced audio that's sourced from a crappy recording is still a crappy recording. And even though this one that I got was only 96 kbit stereo, which is I really don't like to get audio that's sourced that low. AAC, which isn't as bad as that low of a bit rate for MP3. It sounded all right. It definitely met my standards of, I'd play this at my show. Even if it's going to be fuzzy on the screen, at least people can be like, oh my god, I remember this. Or other people will be like, what the fuck are you playing, Dan? I like to have that mix of responses when I do my show. Anyway, when I got to playing the karaoke track, it was clearly done using vocal filtering, and I do have some tracks that are done like that. I've been mentioning Funbox Karaoke quite a bit over the last month. I do believe he's using vocal filtering on almost all of his tracks. He's using and I've chatted with him a little bit about it online. He uses an AI-based vocal filtering program, and this guy clearly, and I wish I knew his name, he clearly knows how to set the parameters to make that. I'm trying to get on the freeway right now. He clearly knows how to set the parameters to get really good results. And most of the instances, like, it absolutely sounds just like the song, absolutely full, minus lead vocals and minus nothing but lead vocals. He doesn't sound like the bass line hasn't also disappeared with the lead vocals, or some of the drums haven't also disappeared with the lead vocals, or some of the guitar tone has not also disappeared with the lead vocals, which often happens using vocal filtering. Anyway, so this track that I got was from the Let Me Caution YouTube channel. It had that bad sound that I've grown to associate with poor vocal filtering, where it kind of sounded like it was underwater, and it kind of sounded like some of the sounds of the instruments were also missing. It didn't sound good. And I'm just so grooving on this song and the potential of having this song for karaoke that I'm like, I think I still want to add this anyway. This is not, at least if I'm bringing out the vocals and I'm energetic, maybe I can drag away from the fact that the instrumental doesn't quite sound up to snuff. And then about a minute and a half into it, there were just a bunch of skips, like corrupted file skips. And I thought maybe it was my file, but I went to his YouTube channel, to the Let Me Caution YouTube channel. I've had a couple comments where he's responded, but I've never really got a dialogue with that guy. I would like to get an open dialogue with that guy, because that guy's got a freaking amazing YouTube channel. If you do YouTube karaoke, look up Let Me Caution. Lemmy as in the first name of the lead singer of Motorhead, and caution as in use caution. That guy, and I'm talking about how bad this one track was from him. Don't let that dissuade you from how awesome his channel is. 95% of the tracks he puts up are flipping amazing, and 100% of the tracks he puts out are things that just, you can't go find that on a karaoke disc. You can't go find that on a mainstream karaoke channel. I'm trying to, just hang on, give me a second, and I'll mention some amazing songs that I've gotten that I use in my karaoke from Let Me Caution that I feel like have greatly enriched my show. Public Enemy, 911 is a joke. That version is absolutely on point. Kendrick Lamar, Backseat Freestyle. Oh my God, it's absolutely perfect. And I'm thinking maybe some of the hip hop stuff, like if you search, you can find actual instrumental versions. Obviously, when he did the one for World Destruction, all he could find was, a vocal version, and he ran vocal filtering on it, and it didn't come out so great. As for the skips, I don't really know what to think about that. I'm surprised he posted like that. Maybe he didn't realize it. I did leave a comment, not trying to berate his channel or anything, just kind of, hey, a heads up, what's up with this? Loving this until the skips at 1:30. What's up with this? Can you check that? Yeah, I just couldn't. I couldn't. And that was just too flawed to go into my karaoke library at that point for me. I did keep the vocal. I did keep it. I've got a place where I put broken karaoke tracks that I just absolutely don't want to delete, because he did a fabulous job of authoring the lyrics, the graphics, scrolling graphics for the lyrics. Although I was looking up my vinyl 12-inch single and some of the other singles that were released, because sometimes I can source a legit instrumental for a song off of a single. A lot of times, especially 12-inch singles, will have instrumental versions. Sometimes 7-inch singles will have an instrumental version as a B-side. CD singles. I was looking at the various singles. This was never released, I don't think, as a CD single. And certainly, I don't know, I was somewhat looking at it on Discogs, and I didn't see anything on Discogs that looked like a available instrumental version, unfortunately. But I don't know, I'm optimistic. I did save the graphics and stuff, so yeah, a whole lot of work and research and effort done to get me a low resolution video and an MP3 I'm probably never gonna play on my show in no karaoke. But yeah, that's what I did yesterday. Good times. Anyway, I'm at the trough. Hopefully I make a better connection with the owner than I did the last time I came in here. So wish me luck, and thanks for sticking with me for 30 whole minutes. Dang.